How's everybody doing today? I would love for this to be an interactive session. So, what I do with these presentations is I stop somewhere in the middle, just do a quick check-in, make sure that we're on the same page. And then, of course, at the end, and I have a little bit of extra time because I joined early, at the end, you also will have some opportunity for questions. Don't be shy, take advantage of the fact that I'm here live with you. And so, don't be embarrassed. Chances are any questions that you ask, other people have them. They just didn't have the courage to raise their hand. Okay, everyone. So welcome to this morning's session. And this session will focus on using Google's digital applications to help you to be more efficient in your everyday life as well as your professional life. And so the presentation is called Digital Skills for Everyday Tasks. In case you're wondering what Grow with Google is, Grow with Google helps people grow their skills, careers, and businesses by offering free digital skills training and tools, usually in collaborations with accelerators and organizations and chambers of commerce. And I am so happy to be a part of yet another amazing initiative by GSE. So in today's workshop, we will examine how Google's applications can help you to manage both your professional and everyday lives remotely. Now, I like to showcase these tools in the context of a sample exercise because I think when you see the application in real world scenarios, it helps the wheels to turn a little better and for you to really understand the usage of these tools. So the exercise we will be planning together is a simple event, say like a virtual company summit or a big pitch meeting, or maybe you're organizing a family reunion, right? Because remember, these tools can be used professionally as well as in your personal life. And we're going to use the tools in the context of planning an event and having the various pieces fit together like a puzzle. So we will begin by using Google Sheets to list and track tasks associated with the event. Then we'll move on to Google Docs to create a meeting agenda and make notes for this meeting. And then we will end the presentation by building a status update using Google Slides. So these are three applications that we'll cover in the time here together: Google Sheets, Google Docs, and Google Slides. Here's my contact information. Don't be shy. Ask me questions during the presentation. But if there's anything that occurs to you after the fact, you can shoot me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn. One quick note on connecting on LinkedIn, just make a note that says, hey, Pertia, I was a part of your session today. I tend to respond to those invitations. As you can imagine, I get lots of invitations. I tend to respond to the invitations with a little personalized notes faster than I do just a general invitations. Okay, so in today's session, we will start off by getting you signed into your Google account and accessing Google Drive. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, Google Drive is a free cloud-based digital drive where you can store projects for work in home. And so you can use it to store your files, your plans, your presentations, your digital portfolios. So I'll show you how to open some very useful Google applications. And again, the focus of this presentation will be on Sheets, Docs, and Slides. Remember, the skills we cover today can apply in a variety of real-life scenarios. So let's get started. Let's talk about what you can really do with your Google account. Now, many people have personal Gmail addresses and they tend to only use their Google accounts for Gmail. However, many people who are only using Gmail don't realize that for free, at no cost, you have access to a wide variety of applications that can be used. And so on the slide that we're viewing together, we're seeing a selection of applications that are the most widely used. However, the next time you go into your account, I highly recommend that you click on that More button to expand the list, and you will really be surprised as to how many applications you have at your disposal for absolutely no cost. So let's just go through the list that we're seeing here on the screen. Sheets, if you're familiar with Excel, Sheets is the Google version of a spreadsheet. Docs would be the equivalent to Microsoft Word. Slides, the equivalent to PowerPoint. In fact, this presentation is being presented in slides today. Photos would be your photo storage. And if you have an Android phone, you would be familiar with Photos because this is where let me just go back one. This is where your photos would be automatically backed up. Chrome is a web browser, of course, and of course, more people are familiar with Gmail, right, in terms of the array of products. All right, so let's talk a little bit about navigating your Google account. At the top right, you would select the Google Apps icon, and from here, you can access all the Google applications that come with your account. Now, keep in mind that your most recent used apps will always appear first, but either during this presentation or afterwards, you should absolutely select more to expand the list. Here is where you also access your Google Drive, where all your projects are stored. So as always, we like to take a quick look at Google Drive first, because this is really the hub of all your Google applications, because this is where everything that you work on is automatically stored for you. So Google Drive allows you to store, access, and share files like documents, slideshows, forms, and pictures in one place, in a safe place in what's called the cloud. Now, the reason why this is important is because as long as you have access to the internet, you can always access your Google Drive. So even if your computer crashes, you lose your computer, whatever is going on, you can go to the library and log on to your Google account and gain access to your documents as they're saved on the cloud. So moving on into our sample exercise. The first project we will do is create a to-do list to track tasks for our big virtual event. Now, I feel like you get the best application of these types of presentations if you follow along a little bit. So if you would like to, you don't have to, of course, you can go ahead and follow along as I go through the exercises. And if any questions arise, like I said, I'll stop somewhere in the middle to check in with you guys. So the first critical step to planning any event is to create a list of everything that needs to get done, either by yourself or by someone else. And of course, if you're planning this in a team environment, it will be really important to outline that list and to make sure that you're delegating tasks accordingly. So now you can create a new blank project for this work. However, Google Drive offers a library of great time-saving templates. Now, as we know, a template provides basic information and formatting and keeps you from having to start from scratch every single time you create a sheet or a project. Google Sheets, which is the first application that we will review, has a template, in fact, that will fit our to-do list nicely, and it's actually called a to-do list. So to work on this list, and I'll go a little slowly for the benefit of anybody that's following along, you would select New, then Google Sheets, and then select from a template. What happens next is that a template gallery will open up with lots of templates for you to use for both work and home. In this case, we will open a to-do list. The next thing you should do whenever you create documents in Google Drive is to give your documents a unique name. Remember that these documents are automatically saved for you. And so what's going to happen is that you're going to have unnamed sheet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, right, to infinity, as opposed to giving that document a unique name, which will help you to stay more organized and to find your work in the future. Now, this is what this template looks like. Now, it may look a bit different from your usual blank spreadsheet, but it still has some of the same basic elements. As we can see, this is a to-do list template, and because of that, it comes built in with what you would expect to have on a to-do list. So there's a column for tasks, and we have 3 tasks that are listed. Now, of course, you would customize, the starter text to match whatever task that you need to fit. You can do cool things with these sheets like add formatting formulas and functions to the cells. But remember, because you're choosing templates with specific tasks in mind, many of them already come with built-in formatting, as we are seeing here. One of the great things that I like about this particular template is that it has the check mark box that you can activate once you have completed a task. So to move on and use this template, you would replace the tasks with things you need to do for your specific event, project, or work. You can also feel free to copy what you see on the screen. Now, to move around the sheet, you would just simply click between the cells, right? And to replace the text, you would just select the text and replace it with text that makes sense for you. Now, you may also want to add a few dates, right? Because these tasks may have deadlines, right? If you're planning the event, you're a month out, 2 months out, you would need to complete specific tasks as you go along the way. So, again, the point here is to customize the sheet with as much information as necessary, and that makes sense for you. Now, this is where things get really interesting. Now, let's say that you want to collaborate with several people and divide up the responsibilities to get your event going. In this case, you can further customize this sheet by adding an additional column for the owner and writing the name of each corresponding owner in each row. Makes sense, right? Because what's going to happen is that ultimately you're going to share this spreadsheet with the people on your team. So to do this, and again, I'll go a little slowly for the people following along, you would click column C, then click Insert and add column right. Next, you would click inside cell D1 and type a title to give the column a new heading like possibly owner. You will then add the corresponding names in the rows below. Now, by simply adding a column for task owners, turns this list, this simple task list, into a team to-do list, right? So let's talk about changing the way that your sheet looks by changing colors, fonts, and other styles aspects of the sheet. Now you can change the format of this template and any template to reflect your own style or something about the event. For example, if it's a party for your favorite sports team, you can change this green to your team colors. Or if it's a meeting at work, you can change this to your brand colors. And as you can see from the animation, you would select the row in question and then click the filler color icon and choose from the list from the drop. You can also select multiple rows or columns by holding down Control, clicking multiple cells, columns, or rows, and then doing the same thing by selecting the new fill number. Additionally, you can adjust the font size or color by selecting a cell or group of cells and selecting new font settings. Now, once you've done all of these changes, you will have a sheet with some tasks and owners, and you will have some formatting that you actually like or reflects your organization or your team. Now let's think about how else you can use this application and apply it to everyday tasks. You can actually use sheets for anything you need to organize, not just event planning, right? So anything from employee schedules to family appointments, sports practices if you have children, to even simple shopping lists. Google Sheets can actually be used for anything that you need to organize. Remember that your sheet is automatically saved on your Google Drive, which should still be open in Chrome. And so you would navigate to that browser tab to the icon to access the application. And so we can see that by navigating to Chrome, you're able to go straight to your sheet. Now, remember the list of owners that you created on your to-do list? Imagine that you're going to move on to the next step, which is to ask all of those people to attend a virtual meeting to help you to plan this event. One way to have a useful and productive meeting is to keep notes as you're discussing your planning, right? And we've all been there. So now we're going to move on and speak about how you can use Google Docs to do so. With Google Docs, you can create and share meeting notes and even collaborate in the same document from anywhere at the same time. So just like we did with the sheet, we're going to start off with a template to help with some of the overall and design basic elements. And you can follow along with the animation you're seeing on the screen. So once again, you will select New. This time you will select Docs and from a template once more, because why worry about formatting when you can use a template? And then you would choose one of the templates for notes. Again, as you will see, the Google Docs template gallery opens and you have a variety of templates to choose from. Since we're going to be creating meeting notes, we will select a meeting notes template for this next exercise. Now, once again, your template will open in a new tab and it will automatically save to your Google Drive. So what is the first thing that you do? The first thing that you will do is that you will give that document a specific name. Now, all the templates for this style of document have the same basic information, which would be your meeting date, list of attendees, agenda notes, action items, as well as items to focus on for your next meeting. Like we did with the sheet, you would click the placeholder text under last meeting follow-up and type something there, like a reminder about a task that's in progress. Similar to the sheet formatting that we just reviewed, you can format this document however you want. You can select the text and change from a numbered list to a bulleted list, and you can also change the font sizes, styles, and colors. Additionally, and this is where it really gets interesting, this is one of the features that I personally like, you can add comments to the document to make notes about things without changing the text. For example, you might want to quickly add a comment about what to add to the meeting agenda, but actually write the agenda later. So this is great, especially if you're doing a lot of things and you want to add little reminders to the document instead of having millions of pieces of paper. Remember back in the days when everything was paper? Now you can actually leave yourself a digital note. Or maybe you want to add a reminder to ask your coworker a question during the meeting. So this is how you leave a comment. You would select any text in the document, and I mean any text. You can select a word, a sentence, or even just a character. Then you would click the plus on the side of the page, or you can open the insert menu at the top and choose comment. In the little box that will appear, so you'll have a little box pop up, you will type the comments. And again, this can just be a reminder to yourself. Now, here's a great trick that makes collaboration much easier. If you add a comment for someone else and you want to notify them, you will type the plus sign and then their email address. What will happen is that Google Docs will send an email to that person with your comment and a link to the document. This is such a great feature. So if, for example, I wanted my coworker to fill in the agenda before the meeting, I can add the comment, add a plus sign and their email address, write a little note in the box, and then choose a sign for that teammate. And what happens is that when you actually assign a comment to someone, they know that they are responsible for resolving it. So once you decide whether or not to assign the comment, you will select comment to add it to the document. So the difference between assigning and just adding a comment is that assigning it, like I said, means that they are responsible for doing something, for resolving the comment. But if there's nothing necessarily for them to do, you just want them to be aware of whatever you're saying, then you would just comment them in without assigning. So you would just hit save. They will be notified, but then, they will be aware because it's not assigned to them that there's nothing necessarily for them to do. Now, if your teammates don't yet have access to the document, Google Docs prompts you to choose what kinds of access they should have. And this is a great feature, especially when you're working with larger teams. So let's talk about different ways to share access to a digital file in Google Workspace. One of the most useful features on Docs and in fact many of the other Google applications is the ability to collaborate on the same document at the same time. Now in the past, sharing documents meant saving in versions. Do you guys remember that? And emailing it back and forth to your team. What happened is that they would have to download it, make changes, save it with a different file name, send it back to you, and then you had to download it again, resave it, and remember to rename it, and back and forth. And what happened many times is that, you do this for 3 times and everyone is confused and you're not quite so sure what the most recent version of the document is. Now, not only is that an inefficient way to work, it also increases the chances of mistakes being made, right? However, the good news is that with Google Docs, you can collaborate on projects with anyone, anywhere at the same time by just simply making changes on that document. Remember, Google Docs saves all the changes you make, right? And because there's only one version of the document, you never need to worry, even as a team, about working on the wrong one. Now, you can choose which documents you share with which people, and you can control how much access they have. By controlling the sharing settings, you can give different members of your team access to the documents they need. Now, if you added someone to a comment, you may have already been prompted to give them access to it if they didn't already have access to it. Another way to grant access is to share the document with someone directly. And to do so, you would select Share in the upper right corner and type that person's email address in the box. Now, if you want to try it today and you have two email addresses, this is a great way to practice. So just simply share the document with your second email address. Next, you can choose what the person can do with your project. So this speaks to access, right? And there are 3 levels of access. Can edit access allows the person to edit the document directly. So this would be someone who is helping you take notes for the meeting. They'll need edit access. Can comment access allows the person to add comments to the document but not change anything. For example, you might want meeting participants to review the notes after the meeting and add comments about anything that may be missing. And can view access, of course, allows the person to see the document but not make any changes at all. For example, this can be a volunteer to your event, an intern, someone who is involved but doesn't necessarily need to change things around. They just need to be kept up to speed. Now, you will notice the box at the bottom labeled Notified People. When you share a document, sheet, or presentation with someone, they will receive an email about it. Now, if you do not want to send an email, you would uncheck this box, but most times when you're including people, you want them to be notified, so you would leave the box checked. What happens is that the next time the person checks their Gmail or any other email that's associated with this document, they will have an email from Google Docs that includes your note and links to access the document. Now, here's the even cooler part. When you store files to your drive, you can give access to different files to different people. So maybe you created a draft agenda for this event, and you want everyone on your event planning committee to have access to that document. So that's the path that I'm showing you on the left of the screen. But maybe you also have a budget file and you only want one other person, sensitive information, to have access to that. And that's the path that you see on the right side of the screen. And the more good news is that you can give different people different levels of access to the file. So people can either have access to edit a file, comment on the file without editing, or just view it without the ability to comment or make changes. Now, you can also give people access to a complete folder and store a group of files in that folder. Word of caution for this. If you are sharing a folder with anyone, there's no way to designate, oh, I just want this person to see these 2 files and this person to see these 3 files. When you're sharing a folder, you're sharing everything that's in a folder. So you want to be careful about that. And yes, you can also give people outside your organization access to these documents. And in a remote world, that is great, right? Because you are then able to share with clients, customers, partners, strategic alliances, people who may not be a part of your in-house team. Okay, So I am going to pause here because we're kind of in the middle of the presentation and to see if anyone has any questions about Sheets and Docs, because next we're going to move on to Google Slides. Any questions? Let me check the chat. Okay, so, all right, a lot of people are saying that they have been using Google Apps. That's great to know that you guys are already aware. Podcasts are your favorite. That's nice. Google Maps, Google Meet is also great. I see we have a lot of raving Google fans. That's amazing. Okay. Do Google Sheets work like Excel? Absolutely. Yes, they do. Good question. All right. And Tiana is saying everything is good so far. Thank you so much for the feedback. Okay, so moving on. Now imagine, right? So we have our task list, we have our agendas, we've been meeting, and this event is going on nicely. So now it's time for you to make possibly a presentation about the progress that you've made on planning this event. And this is where you would use an application like Google Files. Now, Google Slides, sorry. So you may need a way of communicating effectively with a large group of people. So for example, like I just said, maybe presenting your progress, or maybe you're pitching a new business idea to an investor, or maybe you want to just kind of put together a mini presentation to key stakeholders, maybe these people who are funding the event, to let them know that things are going nicely. Now, for these situations, or for plenty others in the workplace, you can build a really, visually appealing presentation using Google Slides. Now, even if your event is just a small team meeting, using a slide deck can keep everyone on track, on pace, and engaged and excited about what's going on. Now, let's take a look at how to use a presentation to share your progress or ideas at work. And of course, you can start from a blank slide deck, or as you guessed it, Google Slides also comes with templates that you can customize for common use. As with our other projects, we will start off with a template to help with some of the overall design and basic elements. So going back to your Google Drive, you will select New, and this time we're selecting Google Slides, and then from a template. This again opens the Google Slides template gallery. Here you can find options for all kinds of presentations that you may want to give, like presenting your research at a professional conference, delivering a sales pitch, or even teaching a lesson. You will open the template that best fits your needs. And since we're demonstrating the usage of these tools in the context of planning an event, we'll use a status report template and build an example project for updating your organization on all of the work that you've done so far, working remotely, by the way, to plan this event. So once again, your template will open in a new tab and automatically save to your Google Drive. So the first thing that you will do is give it a unique name. As you can see, this template has built-in categories designed to update a stakeholder on deadlines, road bumps, and your team's accomplishments. Different templates include different categories, slide layouts, colors, and design. Let's start by customizing your slide by creating a title slide. And again, all you need to do is just click in the placeholder boxes and input your information. You can edit the text on the slide to explain the purpose of a presentation. You can also move text boxes or shapes. And again, you can you can also add additional text or images or anything that makes sense. But for a title slide, we like to keep it simple, so it's usually just a description of what you're going to present. Every template includes pre-designed layouts, as you can see. So layouts include pre-arranged text boxes and formatting, and slides makes suggestions in case you're not too sure for how to use each layout. Now you can select different layouts to present different information, like a main point, important data, quotes, or even a caption. So to build your presentation, you would add a new slide, then select the layout that makes sense, and then move forward to customize the slide as needed. So the highlight that we're seeing on the screen would be a slide that you would use to highlight a percentage or, specific number call out. And it's really interesting, instead of sitting there moving things around and trying to design entire presentations yourselves, you can just select the layouts that make sense for you. As you build out your presentation, you may want to demonstrate information or ideas with a visual. You can add images and videos to get your audience's attention. For example, if your presentation is a new employee onboarding training, you might include a photo of your team or workplace. Or for a budget update presentation, you can link a chart or graph from a Google Sheet. So if you guys are familiar with doing this with Excel, works the same way. To add these elements, you would access the Insert menu and choose the kind of visual element that you want to include. And that's the animation we're seeing on the screen. You can add the visual like a photo or video directly from your Google Drive or search the web to find an image that suits your presentation. Make sure you have the right to use the image, however, right? You don't want to, especially if you're going to be sending this presentation outside your organization or possibly sharing it online. You don't want to get any love notes from people whose images that you may have used without their permission. So you want to make sure that the images that you are using are royalty free. And when you do an image search directly within the Slides application, all of the images that come with the application, you can rest assured that they are royalty-free images. So that's just another way that the application is helping you to stay on the straight and narrow. So at this point, you've built a slide deck to support your presentation. You've selected layout, customized text, and added charts, images, or other visuals to enhance it. Now it's time to share the presentation. Now you might want to share the slide deck with your team first to get their input, or you can make it available to everyone who will be in the audience. Or you can even embed the presentation on a web page. To access these settings, you would use the share icon just like you did from Google Docs or Sheets. You would type a colleague's email address and decide what kind of access you need to give them. Or you would get the sharing link to add it to other files or documents. Now, this is almost the end of our presentation today, but I hope you're feeling more comfortable with sheets and documents now. In this short period of time, we examined opening your Google Drive, creating a to-do list from a template, adding tasks, dates, and owners to the sheet, and adding formatting to all of your documents. We also opened a Google Docs template for a meeting agenda and notes, and you saw how to change the placeholder text in the template, customize the colors, add comments, and share your projects. Finally, we built a status update presentation using Google Slides, and you saw how a template can make your slide deck look polished and professional. We also took a really quick look at how you can customize layouts for your unique presentations. Now, Google Docs and Google Sheets and Slides can get you started with useful projects for your professional or personal lives. For example, if you're looking for a job, you can use one of the Google Docs templates to design a really enticing resume, or you might design a budget in Sheets. It's important to note that Google also offers several other applications, and I'm happy to see that in the chat, many of you are already using them. But just in case, here are some that you should, possibly check out after today's workshop. You can take a look at forms to create surveys to collect feedback from others. We already went through Slides, Calendar to create appointments and book meetings, Google Meet to video conference and meet with people remotely, or Sites to create your own websites for a business or to share your work portfolio. Now, we have barely scratched the surface of all of the features that Google applications offer, and I hope that it's gotten the wheels turning, right, about how you can begin to use these applications immediately after today's presentations, because, unless you begin to use them, you don't really understand or benefit from all of the cool things that they can do. I like to leave all of my workshop participants with a clear sense of what you should do next. So here are a few ways that you can move forward. Visit docs.google.com and review possible templates you might use for work. For example, you might use a newsletter template to design a newsletter to keep your customers updated on your company's remote work. Also, check out the additional templates available in Google Sheets. You can build a spreadsheet tracker for your professional projects, design a budget, or keep a working to-do list for both work and home. Finally, consider some of Google's other professionalization workshops to continue growing your career. So let's take a look at a few additional resources before I close out the presentation. Here are the resources we mentioned in today's workshop. And a lot of people like to take a snapshot of this slide. These are the specific many websites that you can visit to get more in-depth information on everything that was covered today. And I'll leave it up for a couple seconds because I know that a lot of people like to take a snapshot of this slide. So if you just go to these mini websites, it gives you all the information you need about specific programs as well as the applications that I mentioned today. You can also visit the Google Workspace Learning Center to find answers to all your workspace questions. This resource offers a great getting started guide, checklists for new users, lessons to learn by product, lessons to learn by job, information for switching to Workspace from Microsoft, which is very common, video training, access to customer support, and much more. And the mini URL for the Workspace Help Center is g.co/grow/workspace-help. Another slide that people like to take a quick snapshot of. Okay, we introduced a lot of different options in this workshop. To access them all in one location, you can visit the Grow with Google website at grow.google.com. The courses you find here will help you to work, teach, and learn from anywhere. You'll find information and training resources that are categorized by, all the possible learners. So they have information for small businesses, job seekers and students, veterans and military families, educators, developers, and even startups. Okay, you guys, so that is the official end of the presentation. But if anyone has any questions, I would be more than happy to take them.